Two things that we are all trying to use, or at least have talked about, are Zoom and Amazon. Yet both companies recent some actions causing a little concern. Let us now bring in Letitia James. She is the New York Attorney General. Madam Attorney General, it is a real pleasure to have you on CNBC. We appreciate that. I want to begin with Zoom because it appears that the entire world, or at least the United States, is now using Zoom, whether it's for work or whether it's for social conversations. You sent a letter to them expressing concerns about privacy. Specifically, what are you concerned about, ma'am?
So first, let me thank you for allowing me to address your audience. And let me just urge all Americans, and particularly New Yorkers, that they should remain calm, that they should stay at home, that they should wash their hands, that they should practice social distancing, and that all of us will get through this together as one. So we sent a letter to Zoom with a number of questions, basically to ensure the company is taking appropriate steps to ensure users' privacy and security. We were concerned with regards to whether or not they had taken certain protocols, they had put certain protocols in place. With so many businesses and schools and even government relying on Zoom to move their operations forward, it is vital that we ensure the appropriate safety and security measures are in place. We were contacted by a number of New Yorkers and individuals who are just concerned about their practices. And right now, we're just waiting to hear back from Zoom before determining if additional steps need to be taken.
Yeah, do we know, Madam Attorney General, if Zoom is recording this for any other use? I mean, kids are using it for class. We're using it for sensitive business conversations. Is this all being recorded and stored by them?
Those are some of the questions that we asked as part of our inquiry. So we don't know. We can't answer those questions. And so we are basically a fact-based agency, and it's really critically important that our questions be answered and that consumers know whether or not their privacy and their security is being compromised. And at this point in time, we have not made a determination as to whether or not we will take further action, and operations will continue. Individuals will continue to use Zoom, but it's important that as the chief law enforcement officer in the state of New York, that we protect the privacy and the security of New Yorkers and all individuals who are utilizing Zoom at this critical time in our country.
Okay, I want to shift gears, Madam Attorney General, to Amazon. Amazon recently, a couple days ago, very now sort of, I don't want to say famously, but it got a lot of publicity, firing a gentleman named Chris Smalls. Chris Smalls had organized a walkout with his concern about safety facilities at an Amazon warehouse on Staten Island. Mr. Smalls was laid off. You are now approaching Amazon. Amazon says, and I'll get sort of their statement out of the way first, and then you can comment, ma'am, which is that they didn't fire him because of the walkout. They fired him because he had been exposed to a patient who was COVID-19 positive, and therefore they said he repeatedly, effectively violated their physical contact and distancing measures, jeopardizing other workers, and that's why he got fired. Your response to their statement, and what are you going to do with Amazon?
So there is a question of fact, but their position is somewhat dubious. Chris Smalls was an employee at Amazon's warehouse on Staten Island. He organized a walkout to protest the lack of protective measures for workers. There was an individual who had approached him, who he urged that this young lady go home because she had symptoms that were consistent with the virus. She went to get tested. She went back to work, despite the fact that right now there are protocols in place all over this country that individuals who have any symptoms should go home immediately. But she was directed to return back to the facility and exposing the virus to countless number of other workers. Chris, in his right mind, decided to organize strikers, the employees at the facility. And they were urging Amazon to close the facility after the worker tested positive for the virus. Now, organizers put the number of strikers around 50. And Amazon says that it was less. Chris was fired on Monday, and Amazon said it was because he had received multiple warnings. There's a serious question of fact, and there's a question as to whether or not they violated his rights and whether or not they retaliated against him. And so at this point in time, we are engaged in discussions with Amazon. and we will make a determination at some point in the future as to whether or not we will go forward. And I'm considering my office's legal options, and I'm also calling on the National Labor Relations Board to investigate this incident. You know, this could potentially be a violation of New York's whistleblower statute, which states that an employer cannot take retaliatory action against an employee because he or she discloses or threatens to disclose a policy or practice of the employee that is in violation of the law. You see, here in New York, we recognize the right to organize, and that right to recognize is also recognized on the federal level. And it's important that Amazon understands that if they are going to do operations in the state of New York, they've got to respect the rights of workers, but most importantly, they need to take care, they need to attend to the health and the welfare of their employees.
I would also imagine you would agree with this statement, Madam Attorney General, that people everywhere have the right to not pay $100 for an 8-ounce squirt bottle of Purell. I mean, but that's what we saw, particularly at the beginning of this crisis, was third-party sellers, not just on Amazon, by the way, but other sites charging exorbitant amounts for things everybody was desperate for. Clorox wipes, Purell, toilet paper. I know you've talked to Amazon about that. Have they been cooperative on that level? And what can we do about gouging? People are out of work, they have no money, and yet products are stupidly expensive in some cases.
So we, as of this moment, have received over 5,000 complaints related to price gouging. Individuals selling hand sanitizers for $80 to $100. Individuals selling toilet paper for exorbitant amounts of money. Individuals, again, just taking advantage of the fear and the anxiety which continues to exist not only in New York, but all across this country. And it really is unconscionable that individuals will take advantage of these critical times and take advantage of the fear that people are experiencing now. And so Amazon, to their credit, is not engaging in price gouging. It is, third parties who are using their marketplace. And to their credit, they are working with our office. And in fact, a number of online platforms have worked with our office to remove those posts. We have sent out a significant number of cease and desist orders. I believe at last count it's over 800 cease and desist on letters to businesses to refrain from engaging in price gouging. And we have not taken any action with regards to taking any business to court seeking a temporary restraining order, but we are prepared to do that. But Amazon, again, to their credit, is working with us, and they are working with us to remove these third parties who actually are engaging in price gouging. Let me also go on to say that there's a number of medical scams that are out there, and people should be weary of, and also individuals now taking advantage of the anxiety, the heightened anxiety as it relates to scamming people on this related to the stimulus package.
Yeah, certainly so. Working with them on one hand and maybe against them on Chris Smalls on the other. You got big jobs there. Letitia James, the Attorney General of New York, ma'am, thank you very much for taking some time for CNBC.